Bill, good afternoon, good morning to you, and to everyone who's listening to another episode of Half Baked, the podcast where two grown northerners discuss a half-baked idea. Some of these ideas are going to be serious, some are going to be completely ridiculous, but by the end of it, and it's all about really where we get to by the end of this discussion, whether we want to throw them in the trash slash bin, or whether we want to fully bake them. Phil, it's your idea this week, so introduce yourself, and then maybe we can get straight into it. How are you? Where are you? What are you wearing? Phil.
I was a bit worried there, Alistair, that you were going to completely bypass our normal standard thing there.
I nearly did.
I'm here.
I nearly did.
So we're here. I'm here in sunny Northern California. It's a beautiful day, and I'm quite boringly wearing Hugo Boss yet again. I love it. I can't get away from it. But yeah, and everything's good. And what about you, Alistair? Where are you? Even though I absolutely know where you are already. How are you? And what are you wearing?
I'm here in crepuscular West Yorkshire, England. I'm perimenopausal. That's nice. I'm wearing silk and modal t-shirt and silk and modal shorts. And I don't know what modal is, but it's very, very comfy, which I know you're disdainful about.
I know you said we're going to get straight into it, but there's three. I don't know what crepuscular means. I don't even know how to pronounce it. Even though you've just said it, and all they have to do is repeat it. And I'm sure many of our viewers won't know that either. And then I don't know what perimenopausal means, and I also don't know what you're talking about with your clothing. Do you want to? Should we just gloss over this?
I do talk nonsense. I think that's the learning from that, isn't it? So what don't you get? Crepuscular means it's getting dark. Perimenopausal means on the cusp of the menopause, which is where I find myself. And I don't know what modal is. It's some kind of, it's stretchy and it's nice and it's comfy. Bill, get us into this week's topic. I'm hoping it's you. I haven't prepared anything. I think you have.
So this week's episode's all about directors, film directors, more specifically, and how some of them, are lauded as being magnificent film directors, and they've done some good things in their time. But what I see, it's some directors were lauded as the most magnificent directors of all time. Yes, they did some brilliant movies. That's the first movie. The second movie, and then since then, oh my God, what kind of dross are they putting out? But people, it's like The Emperor's New Clothes. People just think, it must be good. It's done by this fantastic director, and no, it isn't. It's rarely good in my experience. So, although there's one or two directors who buck the trend. So, my first example is going to be Quentin Tarantino. Don't get me wrong. First time I ever went to see Reservoir Dogs. Oh my God. Blown away, saw it on the big screen, did not know what I was going in to watch. Absolutely magnificent movie.
True.
His follow-on movie, Pulp Fiction, oh my God, what a follow-on. Absolutely magnificent movie. And then his third movie, was all right. Jackie Brown. I had to look it up, what it was, because it's all right, and it's got loads of stars in it, and it's not terrible. But, so what? And then everything else since then has been absolutely freaking terrible. Maybe Fury. Maybe Fury was all right, maybe, but it was, again, quite forgettable. Inglourious Bastards, what? The Hateful Eight, it was hateful, the movie. That's what it should have been just called, Hateful Movie. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh, I hated that film.
It was all right. But the problem I had with that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I got, because it's based on a true story, I thought it was telling the true story, but then it doesn't tell the true story. And a spoiler alert, the end of it, the movie, is incredibly funny with all the over-the-top violence, because I find that funny.
But you've already been watching something for 2 hours and 45 minutes by then, so you're asleep, so you missed that bit anyway.
Yeah, so there's one example, Quentin Tarantino.
Okay.
Uh, Another example, Christopher Nolan. Oh, the Batman movies are absolutely the original Batman movies, Batman Rises, Dark Knight Rises, and whatever the third one was called.
The
All
other
three
one.
of them, absolutely magnificent
Irresistible.
movies.
Yep. True.
And then Christopher Nolan. Oh my God! I mean, he's what was Inception? Inception, was that by him? Oh,
Yeah.
what,
Yeah, it was one of his.
what a mess.
All
Tenet.
about dreams.
Yeah. Even made Dreams terrible. Dreams are normally wonderful. No, this was just don't go to sleep because if this is what dreams are like, it's absolutely terrible. Just utter nonsense. What's going on? You don't know what's happening. It's just ridiculous. I mean, don't get me wrong. These people are very, very good at doing, setting up the shots and getting great actors and doing that. But then the stories are just awful. So yeah, Christopher Nolan. What else has he done?
Tenet, you were just saying. Tenet was arse.
I don't even know if I went to bother going to see it. It was,
Oh,
yeah. And then Oppenheimer. One of my friends described it as 3 hours of people having meetings. Yeah, it was more. I felt as though Oppenheimer was more of a feeling than a movie. Yeah. So there you go. Then,
feeling.
sorry,
A feeling.
yeah, just a feeling. You got a feeling when you came out of a
Like
movie.
boredom is a feeling.
Maybe. There's an example. Guy Ritchie. Oh my goodness, his first movie, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. Magnificent movie.
Good laugh.
Magnificent movie.
Yeah.
And then the movie that followed it, which was called
Snatch.
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 Magnificent. What a great movie.
It was a good
And
film.
then everything else since then. I mean, Rock and Roller. Well, it kind of made out that it's going to be a second follow-up movie. There wasn't. That's because even he realised, oh, this is terrible. The Sherlock Holmes movies he did. How can you go wrong doing a Sherlock Holmes movie? He can.
Cobblers.
Yeah, I mean, just these movies. Even this latest one, it was all right, but they don't hark back to what they originally they came up with, and maybe that's because during their teenage years they got all these great ideas, and eventually somebody gives them money, and they actually do the movies that they've been thinking about for decades. But then after that, they're kind of, I don't have any other good ideas, so I'll just churn out dross.
So halfback this week is, I guess, boiling that down. There's some principle about a director's only got a certain amount of good films in him or her, and then they just become rubbish, right? That's kind of it, isn't it? So I mean, movies are kind of subjective, but I mean, what you've just said there, I don't have a problem with. I do have a problem with the fact that Fury is not a Tarantino film. So if that was, that's not it. It's not even him. So,
Need to do some fact checking there.
you can remove.
Which was the one with Brad Pitt in the war? Was that not called Fury?
That was Inglourious Bastards, wasn't it?
Okay, so maybe that wasn't. It was all right.
I mean,
Was Brad Pitt in a movie called Fury?
he was in a movie called Fury.
Was it about World War II?
It was about a tank. True. It
There you go.
was directed by Quentin Tarantino. False. It was directed by someone else. So yeah, Tarantino is just like, I don't know. I mean, I was we're of a similar age, and I went to the cinema when Reservoir Dogs came out, and it was just like blew my mind. Brilliant. Like, being in Newcastle on a Saturday night, but it's on celluloid. Just like, how can you get away with this amount of violence on film? Fantastic. So I agree with that. I think Nolan has fucked it. I think he's doing this thing. I think he's just trying to be too clever. He's trying to I don't know, re-engineer cinema, and he's just trying to be so clever. It's like every film that he does has to have some kind of time lapse thing in it. It's unnecessary. It made Oppenheimer completely. I mean, it was confusing and dreary anyway, but it just made it impossible to follow. But it's like, oh no, we're gonna that bit's gonna happen after that, because that's my signature. Oh, what a load of nonsense!
Confusing and dreary.
And who else did you say? Guy Ritchie? Yeah, I mean, you're quite right. Those first two films are good. I don't think I bothered with it. I tried Sherlock Holmes. Nonsense. Utter nonsense. So yeah, I mean, are there any other examples, or does this half baked kind of live or die on whether there are examples of directors who continue to make good films? I'm
James
trying to
Cameron. James Cameron
James
has been
Cameron.
good. So
No,
he
no,
did,
no, no.
yeah, he's magnificent. He did Terminator. He
Amazing.
did Aliens.
Good. Yeah, amazing.
Um, he did Avatar, which is magnificent movie. Avatar 2 is not so good, but Avatar itself is great.
Well,
Basically, any movie that's got some kind of big mechanized robot thing that you get into, that's his idea that he flows through all his movies.
a mechanized robot as opposed to
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a flesh and blood film.
Terminator. Yeah, mechanized robot Terminator, mechanized robot Aliens, mechanized robot Avatar.
Okay,
Has he done
so
any movies that don't have mechanized robot? Maybe if he didn't have a mechanized robot in it, maybe it wouldn't be a good movie by James Cameron. Titanic, for example, and it has a big ship, I believe,
mechanized.
in that movie. But I don't know if it's a. I mean, it's one of the biggest movies of all time, right? But I don't know if it's. I don't know if it's
Massive.
any action. But yeah,
Um, so the problem with that is Avatar's not a film, is it? It's not a film. It kind of like films have to be films, don't they? They've got to have a story. It's got to have a middle, beginning, and end. It's got to have characters. It's got all these things. It doesn't even deliver. It's not a film. It's just
it's
like
got blue monkeys in it. How can you say it's not a film?
watch Blue. It's kind of a documentary, isn't it? Is what I mean. It's not like it doesn't tell it. It's absolute dog dirt, Phil.
Oh
You're
no,
doing so
it's a
you're doing so
magnificent.
well.
It's a
You're doing.
magnificent movie. Avatar 2. Oh.
It's
The
not
first
a
Avatar.
movie. It's not a movie. Trade's description. I'm going to close this down because neither Avatar nor Avatar 2 are actually movies. They're just things projected onto a screen with blue monkeys that go on for ages, and then it finishes. It's a documentary on something that doesn't exist. So you were doing pretty well up to that point, but you've lost me. So I'm taking Terminator 2. I'm taking Aliens. I think that's it. I think Cameron's.
Oh, I
He's
think you've
done.
been too harsh on Cameron. But what about Ridley Scott? He did Blade Runner, which is it's a great movie. And he did Alien, and he's from around my neck of the woods where I was grew up. And in fact, many of you will know, many of you, it's just you, that the opening sequence in Blade Runner of all the futuristic thing is based on ICI Wilton, which is just there up in close to Billingham in the northeast of England. One of the biggest chemical works in Europe. It
Really?
was the biggest works in Europe for a while. Yeah,
Is that true? Blade Runner is based on Middlesbrough.
yeah. It's based on Teesside ICI Wilton. And actually, I just read the other day in the Sunday Times that Aldous Huxley was also inspired to write Brave New World based on the same chemical plant, or one just across the river. So it's obviously a rich vein for people to mine or seam, as
Wow.
you would say, Alistair.
I mean, this is stunning. You know, Blade Runner, great film. Brave New World, great book. Never read it
I didn't like
because
Brave New World. It's actually terrible.
it's based
I don't
on
believe it.
Teesside. You know, the place that Chris Rea drives home every year for Christmas to
On the A19.
on the A19. Yeah, okay, so Ridley Scott, any others? So Blade Runner, brilliant. Alien, like one of the best ever. Gladiator, kind of good, but I went back to watch it
Oh, yeah.
recently, and it's full of slow motion bits, and they just look terrible. So,
Yeah, at the time it
oh,
was okay. And
yeah,
actually, I think they had to recut it because one of the main actors died in the middle of it, and it's a little bit choppy. But the main thing, they've done a good job of stitching it together based on what they had. But yeah,
okay, so there are going to be a couple of outliers. I would throw in there Denis Villeneuve, who I thought of because he made the new Blade Runner film. and he's made
which
loads
was
of great
terrible.
films, which is great. Better than the
Sorry,
original, obviously.
sorry, what was better than the original?
Blade Runner 294782.
I thought it was dross. In fact, Dennis Villeneuve, he seems to take quite interesting ideas and make them boring. In fact, every movie, Arrival sounds like quite a good movie. No, he made it terrible. June is about being on the beach, right, for 3 hours, and it's a bit boring. Let's face it. It was well shot and well done, but boring. What else has he done? Villeneuve.
He did Sicario, which was fantastic. That was great fun.
No, that was equally as confusing as Oppenheimer. What's really going on? No,
He
no,
made Prisoners, which was great. Um,
I
but
haven't
you
seen
know
that.
what? You know what? I mean, to me, he doesn't really put a foot wrong, but he is the exception. I think. I think you're right. There's something about. So I think the list of directors who have consistently been good is way, way shorter than the list of directors who were maybe good at one point who just lost it for whatever reason. But it's kind of like musicians are a bit like that as well, aren't they? There's not many musicians around who just do churn out classic after classic after classic album, over lengthy periods of time. They have that spark, that youth, that spunk, full of piss and vinegar. Leave school, leave college, art college, and produce great albums. And then they get successful. They believe they're on hype and start becoming. Look at Prince. How good was Prince, and then how bad was
Well, he was
Prince?
terrible, 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 but he was a really good musician, and then he had some good songs, and then he was a bit, what, really? Um, yeah, there's loads and loads of one-hit wonders, right? What that guy, Never Gonna Give You Up, whatever he's called, Aha, or whatever, if that was what they were called, um, Elton John, Madonna, The
Even
Police,
Bowie.
all one-hit wonders.
But uh, even Bowie. Do you know what I mean? Love him or hate him, you have to kind of respect that he had some classic songs and kind of shaped the world, and then was terrible. It was terrible, pounced around and he wore great clothes, and then he wore terrible clothes for ages, like
Do you
Macintoshes with.
remember? Do you remember he was doing his last concert or whatever, and he put it out to the fans for them to vote for which song that they wanted him to play on the thing? And it's one of those situations where you can't trust people. So everybody voted, not everybody, but the vast majority of people voted for his terrible worst song he'd ever written, which was the Laughing Gnome song or whatever it's called.
No, I didn't know that had happened. That's brilliant,
Yeah, and
fantastic.
you know.
So what? So did he perform it?
I believe he was either forced to back down or forced to perform it. Either way, it was terrible. It's a bit like on the census a few years ago. They've forced people to put what their religious was. So the vast majority, not the vast majority, a large minority of the country in England said their religion was Jedi.
Jedi, a massive, massive minority of people
That's right.
said that they were Jedi's. That's right. So did he perform the Laughing Gnome song?
I don't know. We'd have to do some fact checking to find out.
Okay. Well, let's move away from that because never, always rather let a lie and a mistruth get in the way of Half Baked. The other thing that really drives me mad about films is while we're on, and I know this has gone off. We'll bring it back and we'll decide whether we're going to fully bake your idea or not. The other thing that really irritates me is, and I think this is linked to directors believing their own hype. It's when they try to be really clever with like film stuff. So Nolan's big thing is it can't be digital film and it needs to be shot in IMAX and all this sort of stuff because people's faces are really close up and they look great when they're close up in IMAX. It's like I'm here to watch a film. Do you know what I mean? You might care about these things. I don't care. I just want to be entertained about it. I hate metaphor in films where directors are trying to be really clever. Like they'll put the camera at an askew angle to make you feel like, ooh, this is something weird that's happening, or they'll like put it in a small ratio 4x3 or whatever because you're meant to feel claustrophobic now. No, I'm just watching a film. This is all in your head. Metaphor in film doesn't work. It's as simple as that. And I think it's kind of the sign of a director getting too big for their boots. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I'm not certain that changing the format of the screen is metaphor, Alistair, but I'm totally with you that any subtlety is completely lost. Like in the Matrix, I love the Matrix. I hate the Matrix 2 and Matrix 3. I don't want to watch them ever. And the fourth one, terrible, terrible movies. But the first movie, absolutely magnificent. But then learned after watching it many, many times, learned that when you're in the Matrix, there's a green hue to the video. Completely lost on me. Does it matter? I don't think you pick up on it. I didn't. And I'm with you. I went to see Oppenheimer in IMAX. Did it make any difference? No, not really. I could have been watching it. I'm not suggesting everybody watch movies on their phone like my son does. But, yeah, it doesn't have to be the largest screen on the planet for you to enjoy it.
It's potentially
If
even
it's
worse.
a good movie.
If all you're watching is a meeting take place, it's like the biggest meeting in the world. You've kind of made it worse, haven't you, Nolan?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well. Yeah. I mean, I agree. Is the Matrix shot in green? It's like directors will put red lighting when something scary is about to happen or someone's getting angry. No,
Yeah.
not
No.
interested. Leave metaphor for the poets and just give us a good rollicking story. Well, so how we feeling about it, Phil? We've kind of. I think there are examples of directors who do keep their game up, but it's a bit of an eye opener what you've been saying. It feels like artists, not just film directors, but artists have kind of got one or two really good ideas in them, and then they get too much money thrown at them, or they believe the hype, or they get too old, and they kind of lose it. I think that's what you're saying, and I think I kind of agree.
Yeah, I'm trying to find examples of where people have done a good job. Like, I think, okay, Marvel movies, they've lost the way a little bit recently, but they've had lots and lots of different directors. But Jon Favreau, who did the first, I believe, did the first few Marvel movies, the big ones like Iron Man and maybe Iron Man 2, which was a little bit of a mess, but still good, and maybe the Avengers movies. That he did a really, really good job. If in fact that's correct, he did those. He's did a great job. Now, the franchise has lost its way a lot recently. Some of the what was the movie with Doctor Strange? Oh, what a mess of a movie! And I shouldn't. A lot of movies recently where I've had to switch them off because they're such a mess. The recent Batman movie. What are we watching? This is terrible. The Doctor Strange movie. I think the Black Widow movie was a total mess as well. And there's lots of movies like that where you just go, I can't watch this nonsense. Some of my favourite movies of all time. I had little kids and were now grown, but watched things like Tangled, magnificent movie. Frozen, magnificent movie. Frozen 2, total utter disaster. What's going on? What are they? Why are they doing that? Where they're going? It's just completely lost its way. Kung Fu Panda, brilliant. Got some of my favourite quotes of all time. It's a magnificent movie. I did think one of its quotes was sticking a feather up your butt doesn't make you a chicken. But I recently found out that's not from Kung Fu Panda. Actually, that's from Fight Club, which is also a great, great, great movie. But yeah. But what about the director who did Fight Club? What's his name? David Fincher?
Yeah, he did Seven, which was a great film, didn't he?
Great movie.
Yeah,
But I've got a feeling
I'd have to look back and see what else he did to see whether
I've got a feeling he's done some really terrible movies recently. But Fight Club and Seven, absolutely magnificent. I'll have to go and check to see what
did
he's
he
done
make The
recently.
Social Network? That was dull as ditch water as well.
Ah.
What about Laurel and Hardy? Do they count?
They're not directors.
They're not directors. Although Stan Laurel was kind of a director, didn't he? He had some sort of creative input. But every Laurel and Hardy film is brilliant.
I don't think my children have seen the Laurel and Hardy. That's maybe I'll try and.
You what?
I don't think my children have ever seen a Laurel and Hardy movie. They won't know who that is.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. They just had a great run, and they just went on and on, and still crack me up to this very day. Huh, okay. Well, it feels like so. I'm going to say that I don't think it's a hard and fast rule. I don't think that 3 films is it, because there are exceptions. But I think there's definitely, like with music, with film, like there's a time where you should have just stopped. And
Yeah, I mean, recently there's been some news in that Tarantino is going to his 10th movie is going to be his last movie. Thank God.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, let's hope that's the case. But I think I'm more with you than not, Phil. I can't even remember whose job it is to decide in a half baked. If it was me, I would say I agree. Just stop making films
All
before.
right, let's put that fully baked stamp on this episode and close it down.
Phil, that was great. That was a lot of fun. Even though you talk absolute nonsense a lot of the time, but it's very entertaining nonsense all the same. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Tell everyone about what we do here. There'll be another podcast on its way in a week or so. Thank you and goodbye.